But our top story tonight, there's been a big win for India at the International Court of Justice, both in legal and diplomatic terms. Former naval officer Kulbhushan Jadhav in a Pakistani jail facing death sentence. His execution has been put on hold. Jadhav or India has also been granted consular access to their citizen. Jadhav, remember, was abducted by Pakistan, has been lodged in a Pakistani jail for the last 2 years. The ICJ, in a stinging judgment, 15-1, has asked Pakistan to review and reconsider their decision and ask for a fair trial for Jadhav. Geeta Mohan and Lavina Tandon have tonight's top story from The Hague.
Two years after he was abducted from Iran and branded an Indian spy by Pakistan, Pakistan has now suffered a massive embarrassment at the International Court of Justice.
Declares that a continued stay of execution constitutes an indispensable condition for the effective review and reconsideration of the conviction and sentence of Mr. Kulbhushan Jadhav.
The International Court of Justice not only granted India consular access to Jadhav, but also stayed Jadhav's execution. The court also said Pakistan violated the Vienna Convention and asked Pakistan to review Jadhav's conviction and sentence.
In light of the foregoing, the court finds that it has jurisdiction under Article 1 of the optional protocol to entertain India's claims based on alleged violations of the Vienna Convention.
Back home in India, celebrations erupted.
हाँ बहुत बड़ी जीत है इसमें कहीं दो राय नहीं.
एक बहुत अच्छी खबर अंतर्राष्ट्रीय कोर्ट से आई है क्योंकि इसमें जो काउंसलर एक्सेस भी नहीं दे रहे थे वो भी अब कुलभूषण को मिलेगा.
This landmark judgment validates India's position on this matter fully. We will continue to work vigorously for Sri Kulbhushan Jadhav's early release and return to India.
Jadhav's family hopes the verdict will ensure his quick return.
We were no doubt we actually happy. So not still full happy. You see, my nephew should come back. No, that is my prayer to the God.
But Pakistan is still in denial.
India asked for at least acquittal, release, return. It didn't get that relief.
Islamabad claimed India's case has been rejected and added that the ICJ had upheld its military court's jurisdiction. While the ICJ has delivered a mega diplomatic victory for India, all eyes are still on Pakistan and how it implements the ICJ order. Will it allow a fresh civilian trial or continue with its kangaroo military courts? With Lavina and Geeta at The Hague, Bureau Report, India Today.
Now all this happening on a day that the International Court of Justice delivering that big verdict on former Indian naval officer Kulbhushan Jadhav. Guess what? Pakistan went ahead and arrested the 2611 mastermind Hafiz Saeed, who was on his way to Gujranwala from Lahore in Pakistan's Punjab province. They've arrested him in an old case of 2009 involving money laundering. Remember, Saeed is the mastermind of the 2611 Mumbai terror attack and the mentor for the Lashkar-e-Toiba. Saeed has said he will fight the cases against him in court. All of this coming just a few days ahead of Imran Khan meeting US President Donald Trump in Washington. Trump, in a tweet, has called out Pakistan for its inaction earlier against the terror mastermind and said that Hafiz was arrested only due to the pressure exerted by the US. Since 2 years, Hafiz is a UN designated global terrorist but continues to roam free in Pakistan. So it's been a dramatic day. Those two big stories are the basis for my top talking point tonight. Let's raise all the big questions tonight. Has Pakistan been exposed in global fora once again, both at the ICJ and the manner in which Hafiz Saeed's arrest has been effected? Will Pakistan honor the ICJ verdict now? Will Pakistan honor that ICJ verdict? Will the trial take place in a military court, or Pakistan finally accept that it needs to be in a civil court? And importantly, Will Jadhav get a fair trial now that the ICJ has stepped in? Just some of the questions I want to raise tonight. I'm joined by Raj Chengappa, Group Editorial Director at India Today, someone who's tracked Pakistan for years. Sharat Sabharwal, former envoy to Pakistan, is with us. Rana Banerjee, former Special Secretary RNAW, and also joining me from Pakistan, Sultan Hali joins me. I appreciate all of you joining us at this moment. Let's get first reactions to the Jadhav verdict. I want to come to you, Sharat Sabharwal, since you've tracked Pakistan for years as ambassador. How do you see this verdict? Does this mean now that Pakistan, A, cannot summarily execute Jadhav, but importantly, does it mean that he will get a fair trial? In your experience, will Pakistan be willing to go the extra step?
Well, the verdict is on the expected lines. It's on the lines of the verdicts that were given by the ICJ earlier in similar cases. So what they have asked for is a review and reconsideration of the death sentence awarded to him, taking into account the provisions of the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations. But I think there are two important things. One, they have said that the review should be effective. And second, they have continued the stay on his execution. Now, therefore, that gives us an opportunity. We don't know which way it will go. Pakistan theoretically has the possibility of conducting the trial afresh. We don't know whether they...
Do you see that happening? Do you see what is the possibility of the trial being conducted afresh, a fairer trial than a summary trial in a military court?
Well, your guess is as good as mine. Nobody can give, but I can make an informed guess. And the position is, because of its current problems, economic problems, international pressures, FATF, etc., one could see Pakistan going into a period of tactical retreat vis-a-vis us.
A tactical retreat?
Retreat vis-a-vis us. You are seeing telltale signs of that, more forthcoming. Kartarpur corridor, they have opened the airspace.
The arrest of Hafiz Saeed today.
Saeed has been arrested. He's been arrested earlier also, but earlier under preventive detention laws, this time on charges of money laundering and terror financing and so on. It's too early to say whether it will lead to anything or not, but you could see a period of tactical retreat. All that I can say is that I think that will weigh on their mind on whatever they do vis-a-vis Jadhav now.
Interesting. Should we therefore conclude that slowly but surely the pressure on Pakistan is growing? A country whose economy is now really struggling, the FATF restrictions, and therefore this Jadhav verdict in that sense perhaps comes at the right time. It only puts more pressure on Islamabad to come clean.
Quite so, but you see, I would eschew euphoria at present because first thing, it will hinge on the consular access, and there may be many steps of cussedness which may be adopted by the Pakistani establishment in providing us consular access.
Even on consular access, given the nature of the verdict, I have the verdict here, it's very, very clear, at least on consular access. Pakistan has been in clear violation of the Vienna Convention.
I agree, but you see, both of us have lived there, and you find that the establishment there can find ways of dragging their feet. That is one aspect we have to keep at the back of our minds. Secondly, the state in which Jadhav is found when we get consular access.
Yes.
Is he in mentally sound state, physically sound state, or he is in some sort of stupor? Second aspect is, is he suffering from Stockholm syndrome? Does he then give a narrated version which is closer to the Pakistani position, how they extracted the confession from him after a lot of duress? So all these aspects will have to be seen in the nature of the consular access that they give to us.
But Raj Chengappa, you've tracked Pakistan for years. The word use of tactical retreat, do you see Pakistan reacting strongly, or do you see Pakistan in a way? Let me for a moment just stop you. I'm just going to Harish Salve. He's giving a press conference. Remember, it's Mr. Salve who was the Indian lead counsel. Let's listen into him.
For the manner in which it intervened in this case, it protected Kulbhushan Jadhav, who was on death row, from being executed in a hearing which was put together in a matter of days. And today it has delivered a judgment which has gladdened our hearts and once again restored the faith in the rule of law, in the International Court of Justice, and in the systems which we have as mankind put together to protect citizens of the world from state tyranny. We had challenged the conduct of Pakistan in its brazen refusal to adhere to the Vienna Convention and to allow consular access to an Indian. Pakistan all along sought to use the proceedings to make allegations against India of state-sponsored terrorism. It repeatedly played out slides of what it claimed were a passport it had recovered from Jadhav and asserted that India has to explain how this passport was put in place. Not only did the court not get drawn into this, but displaying this passport led to the court rejecting Pakistan's argument that Jadhav's nationality was uncertain. The court said, if you say that there was a passport which you recovered, true or false, the court says if you recovered a passport which you rely on and it was issued by India, you could have had no doubt that he was an Indian. Pakistan ran 3 preliminary objections. I will not bore you with the details. They were legalistic, but some of them may be of interest. In the course of its exchanges with India, where India repeatedly sought consular access, at one stage, based on the extracted confession, which Pakistan played over and over again in the international media, Pakistan told India that they had registered a first information report for those who in India had supported Jadhav in what they alleged was his conduct and his activities in Pakistan. The who's who of India's officialdom was named that. And at one stage Pakistan claimed that if India were to allow that, then it would allow consular access. In the ICJ, Pakistan also ran the case that India has not cooperated in this investigation and therefore India should not be heard to complain of violation of the Vienna Convention. This argument has been rejected. I have a degree of personal satisfaction that a lot of adjectives were used by Pakistan in its submissions. Even in replying in the court, I characterized them as unfortunate, and I said it is my upbringing and India's tradition which stood in my way of replying to them in that language. Pakistan had based allegations of what we as lawyers call abuse of process and said that was another ground why India should not be allowed the relief it seeks. That has been rejected. The court has held that Pakistan is guilty of what it, and this is what I have written down when I was hearing the judgment, the court has held that Pakistan is guilty of internationally wrongful acts of a continuing character, and it must cease those acts. I think in the language of diplomacy, which is the language of the International Court of Justice, this is trenchant indictment. Personally, as a lawyer, I am delighted that the court has upheld our argument that while construing the Vienna Convention, the ICCPR, the Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, must inform its interpretation. All this has led to the court giving us the final relief. We had ambitiously asked for annulment. The court said we can't annul, but they have said that Pakistan has to do everything to make the Vienna Convention right a living reality. They have to allow review and reconsideration. They have rejected the argument that clemency is a form of review and reconsideration. They have not accepted the argument that resort to judicial review in Pakistan courts is good enough. And that is why they have said that you must allow review and reconsideration. As I read the judgment, the critical point of review and reconsideration is that he has to be allowed consular access, he has to be allowed, and the review and reconsideration must take into account the potential prejudice caused to him, the implications of his evidence, and his right to defense. And it is only such review and reconsideration where we or our consulate will not only be allowed to meet him, discuss with him, see the papers, examine the evidence against him, but also arrange for his legal representation. And then there has to be a fair trial. Pakistan's Attorney General asserted that their constitution assures a fair trial. The court has said you must take all steps necessary. What steps you take are of your choice, respecting the sovereignty of Pakistan. But they have said this choice is not a free, unhindered choice. There is what they have used a nice phrase, they have said there's an obligation of result. And that result has to be a fair adjudication after allowing him consular access. And most tellingly, the court has said, you will take all steps necessary, including legislative measures. So Pakistan's repeated assertions that our existing laws are good enough and he can get nothing beyond has not been accepted. So I think I see this judgment with a sense of relief, a sense of gratification. And of course, they have said that till all this is done, there is no question of executing him. So I see this as something which we are very happy with, and I think it is now a good moment for us to help Jadhav get justice, ensure he has a fair trial, and since I know this is a question which all of you must be having in your mind, what if? The answer is, as in the other cases, the way the court judgment is, we can always go back to them if what they give is not a fair trial. Thank you.
I just wanted to ask you, sir, is this trial now going to carry out in the military court, or does it have to be in the open court?
They have said a fair trial in accordance with the Pakistan Constitution. If it is back in the military court with the same rules where outside lawyers are not allowed, we are not allowed, access is not given, evidence is not given, it will not meet the standards. So either they will have to amend the military law, and they are laying themselves open to the challenge that that trial was not a fair trial as contemplated by the court. That's why I said I'm very gratified as a lawyer that the court has said that the ICCPR must inform the interpretation of the Vienna Convention.
Okay, so Harish Salve, they're making it plain that this is a gratifying verdict, a verdict that puts severe restrictions on Pakistan in handling the Kulbhushan Jadhav case. Rajchan Gapar, two words were used, words also used in a way by Harish Salve. One, of course, the diplomat saying tactical retreat, the intelligence officer saying Pakistan's cussedness, but Mr. Salve making it clear there has to be a fair trial now. Do you see that happening? Do you see an Imran Khan government being put under sufficient pressure to ensure a fair trial for Kulbhushan Jadhav. Will the Pakistan army allow it?
You know, firstly, let's be clear. I mean, I agree with Mr. Salve that it is a major diplomatic, and I would add a moral victory for India. And let's also, you know, this was a propaganda push that Pakistan had attempted. It has failed because this was a spy versus spy game that they played. They had tried to raise the Jadhav case, as Mr. Banerjee would know. There have been many such instances in the past, and these would be quietened down and exchanged, and there wouldn't be this kind of confrontation that had. I think Pakistan made the mistake of raising it to this level of confrontation. India then smartly moved the ICJ, which they didn't really anticipate as it happened. But in many respects, the verdict brings a somewhat relief to not only India, but I think to some extent to Pakistan, because this was getting to be a flashpoint. If the verdict was adverse towards India, and if Pakistan then was left with the option of only executing Mr. Jadhav, that would have been even more difficult, right? Given the current situation that is there. So I think, as Mr. Sabharwal is also, Ambassador Sabharwal has also hinted, that this is an opportunity, apart from the grandstanding that is going on, for Pakistan to start making the moves. They've done that by lifting the restrictions on the airspace. Hafiz Saeed, I think, is directed largely towards pleasing the US. And given the fact, as you had mentioned earlier, their financial condition and the need for an IMF loan and the constrictions they might have with the FATF on this matter, Pakistan is moving, as he rightly said, tactically to show that it is now getting friendlier towards or making the right moves towards India so that India could relax its, stern approach that's there. But so there's an opportunity in this thing if Pakistan wants to do it. To answer your question on this, again, I believe they will use this. After all, Mr. Salve's interpretation is that they must now move towards a civil court, that the military court has been ruled out because it does not have representation from its lawyers. But if you read the verdict also, it says Pakistan should review and reconsider on the rights of its own choosing. That I think will give them the leeway, and that is why if you see the official spokesperson from Pakistan claims it to be a victory, because it says, while we have stayed it, we can continue to have, a court case in this. I take your point, but the question is very clearly, there's a legal and a moral victory here, a diplomatic, legal and a moral victory. The question is, how does Pakistan respond? And that is really where Sultan Hali, the concern is here in India. Will Pakistan respect the ICJ verdict? Or will this become another occasion to engage in some form of brinkmanship? Is Pakistan going to take that step back as a result of this ICJ verdict? Can we expect Islamabad to recognize that Kulbhushan Jadhav deserves the same rights that, let's say, we gave to Ajmal Kasab, who was caught red-handed and yet went through a complete judicial process, not a military court, sir, like in Pakistan? Will there be a trial in a civil court?
Well, Rajdeep, thank you very much for having me on your show. And I have listened to the views of very learned participants on your show. I would like to submit that, yes, the ICJ allowing consular access to Kulbhushan Jadhav by the Indian High Commission in Islamabad is being termed as a victory in India. So I can see your jubilation. But please look at it that there were three pleas which India had submitted. One was his release. The other was the overturning the case. Now, these two aspects have been not accepted by the ICJ. So if that is why the spokesperson for Pakistan is claiming it as a victory for Pakistan.
Sir, sorry to dispute this. As a student of law, of international law, let me say this. The court in its final line says the court finds that Pakistan is under an obligation to provide by means of its own choosing, effective review and recommendation, reconsideration of the conviction and sentence of Mr. Jadhav. So they've used the word obligation. There's a duty now on Pakistan. It's not that they are leaving any space for Pakistan to interpret this judgment, to give them that elbow room to claim that we are not under any obligation. You are under an obligation. That's all I'm saying. Please understand, the court has also earlier said that Pakistan has violated the Vienna Convention.
Sir, look, I'm glad that you are mentioning what is the verdict of the court, but you should also remind your viewers perhaps that Pakistan's plea was that we have a bilateral agreement under 2008. Okay, the court did not, the ICJ did not accept our plea on this and insists that Vienna Convention should be adhered to. Now, coming back to your original question, that what is Pakistan going to do? Is it going to, disregard the verdict of the ICJ? I personally think that Pakistan is going to be responsible enough to abide by the verdict which has been given by the ICJ. Having said that, the other aspects of the review of the case, yes, okay, if the ICJ has made it obligatory for us, we will probably be looking into it, but I'm not certain. You see, you are comparing Ajmal Kasab's case. Ajmal Kasab was not a military person, but Kulbhushan, in his confession, says that he is a serving officer of the Indian Navy. You are saying he is a retired officer. Okay, that can be contested, but
I am talking about due process of law, sir. Whether he's a military officer or whether he's a civilian, he deserves the due process of law. That's been India's case, that the due process has been denied, that you've denied consular access, there's been a summary trial, he was not even provided a proper legal defense. But let me therefore turn to, again, Rana Banerjee, you use the word Qasid. Now, my friend Sultan Hali could be accused by Indians of being Qasid. He will say, look, I am interpreting the verdict from a Pakistani angle. But is this the kind of battle that we are going to see, or do you see Pakistan taking a step back in the current scenario as Raj Chengappa described?
Well, there again, you see what Ambassador Sabharwal said. I would repeat that your guess is as good as mine. The thing is, there is already a brewing controversy between the judiciary and the army regarding references against a very upright judge who criticized the ISI.
Yes.
Now, in this backdrop, whether in this judgment or in this, as a result of this judgment, whether the army will step back and allow a civilian trial of Jadhav.
So at the end of the day, it comes to the army. That's where the confusion, that's why it's a guessing game in Pakistan. The role that the army plays in the days ahead. We've had some helpful developments on Kartarpur corridor. We've had a dialogue that's begun. Pakistan airspace has been opened up, and you've got Hafiz Saeed being arrested for money laundering. Do you see, in a sense, even the Pakistani army, to use your words, tactical retreat? Do you see that?
Well, as I'll repeat what I said earlier, I would expect their current situation, economic situation, the pulls and pressures that they are facing to weigh on their mind in whatever they do vis-a-vis Jadhav now. This is number one. Number two, I would say that this verdict, more important, it says review and reconsideration has to be effective, A.
Yes.
B, there is stay on execution, as I said. Now, assuming Pakistan goes ahead, conducts another trial, comes to the same conclusion that he has to be sentenced to death, they have to go back to the court.
No, in fact, Harish Salve said that if what Pakistan conducts or calls a trial is not seen by us as being within the court's ambit, we will go back to the court.
You have, this gives you leeway to go back to the court. So this matter doesn't end here. If Pakistanis decide to prolong it, the trial can continue for a long time, things can continue to linger on. But it would be difficult for them to take a summary decision and carry out the death sentence.
The one concern, of course, I have is the triumphalism. I heard Giriraj Singh, the minister, saying Pakistan has been taught a lesson. You're seeing the flashes also. My worry sometimes is that also gets Pakistan's back. Has this to be done now very carefully? If we, in a very nuanced manner, if we really want to bring Jadhav back, we can't have this triumphalism saying we've taught Pakistan a lesson.
Well, to put it very crudely, yes. I think Jadhav is more important to Pakistan alive than dead. And that's why I was saying that there is a sense, in whether they like to admit it or not, that the court didn't say go ahead and do that, because that would have put them into a piquant situation, brought a greater confrontation with India. Now, there will be an element of triumphalism because you need to score brownie points in a domestic front to say, look, we've saved the man. So, but the fact is that you're right. This is an opportunity for us, as well as for Pakistan, to now move forward on a lot of the other issues that we have confrontation with. Given the fact, if, for instance, even if they're grandstanding for US on Hafiz Saeed, There are a lot of issues we are wanting to sort out on terror. Will Pakistan move in that direction? Kartarpur is a very positive signal that is there. So if Pakistan begins to move in this direction, take this as a case where, you know, in some sense is a relief that you're not going pitting India. You still have the propaganda war. They still have that. He's there. They can conduct the trial and then keep making this reference. You're doing it in Balochistan. You accuse us of doing it in Kashmir. In what way is it different? In that sense, that international propaganda with this verdict is sort of lowered. So they need to come to that terms in that case and start moving towards some sort of, I wouldn't say reconciliation, understand what India wants, the new Indian government wants, and there is scope for us to move forward in our relations.
You know, grandstanding is the word that I'm catching on to, Sultan Ali. It exists on both sides of the border at times. But with the Pakistanis at the moment under pressure for financial assistance, with the fact that you are under pressure on terror, can we expect a little less of the grandstanding and much more pragmatism on this occasion? Can we expect, for example, a recognition that you can't just have a mock trial of a Hafiz Saeed and allow him to come out again after a few months when the pressure dies down? Does Pakistan now recognize, with what has happened in the ICJ, but with what Trump has also said today, that you've got to in some way get your act together?
Well, you see, Rajdeep, I mean, I'm very pleased with what the previous participant just said, that you see, you got to move forward. Okay, in India, there is jubilation that you have managed to get consular access granted to Yadav. But in Pakistan, we are celebrating that the ICJ also accepted that Kulbhushan Jadhav was a spy and was a terrorist.
No, they've not accepted, sir. No. I've got the judgment here. Sir, I must be very clear. They have not accepted that. They have also made it very clear the execution is state. Let's be very clear, sir. I'm not trying to make this India versus Pakistan bashing. I'm only going by the judgment. At no stage, I've read the judgment, does the court accept Pakistan's contention that he is a spy and or was involved in terror activities? They don't accept that. They're not reversing the verdict in your military court, but neither are they accepting that he's a spy. Let's be very honest, sir.
Rajdeep, don't jump in just as yet. Allow me to complete. Yes. What I'm saying is that this is what is being displayed. If you watch Pakistani TV, these are the catchphrases which are coming
Sir,
on
your TV also engages in there is competitive jingoism on TV. I'm not going to go down that route. I'm only going by the hard facts. I'm going by the hard facts.
Okay, go by the hard facts, but what I'm trying to say that yes, this is a grand opportunity. Please accept the three things that have happened just only today. You mentioned the arrest of Hafiz Saeed, and this is a formal arrest and not a protective custody or protective detention or whatever. And the other thing is also the Kartarpur opening or the dialogue which has taken place. I think it's very positive.
So should I believe that the arrest is not an eyewash this time? That you believe that this eyewash, that the arrest is not because Imran Khan is to meet Donald Trump in 4 days from now? You want me to believe that this is a serious attempt by Pakistan to crack down on the Lashkar boss?
Yes, I believe so, and this is it may be my personal belief, but I have a firm conviction that I think we are serious and we want to move ahead. And I think you should welcome it, and rather than, both sides engaging in jingoism, we should look at the positives and try and grasp on it. Much water has flown under the bridges.
One would welcome Hafiz Saeed being arrested. We'd welcome it even more if he's convicted and spends an extended period in jail. But you're hearing Rana Banerjee from Sultan Ali that please trust us, we actually want to act against Hafiz Saeed now. Is it good enough, or is your past experience going to lead you to be very, very cautious?
I'll be cautious because as of now one can see it is due to the pressure of the FATF, the arrest regarding money laundering cases. And Hafiz Saeed has access to formidable legal counsel who have in the past bailed him out in both the Lahore High Court and in the Supreme Court.
Sharad Sabarwal, are you willing to give Pakistan the benefit of the doubt, or you believe that the proof of the pudding will lie in the eating, given past experiences, particularly with Hafiz Saeed?
I would be very cautious. I have personally seen what they did in 2008. They arrested him after Mumbai. Within 4 or 5 months, he was released. After some time, they started mainstreaming him, organizing interviews for him with the media and so on. And within a year after that, he was all over. So I would be very cautious. This is a beginning. If they have arrested him, as I said earlier, they have been arresting him under preventive detention laws. This time he has been arrested apparently on charges of money laundering and terror financing. We have to see whether it leads to anything. At the moment, one would be very cautious.
So let me give you, Raj, then a final word. Given what has happened over the last 24 hours, from the fact that Pakistan airspace has opened up to what we've seen today, how should we now how should the Modi government and indeed those in policy be responding? Should we now use this opportunity to keep the heat on Pakistan, step by step, ensure incremental moves forward rather than any major diplomatic breakthrough?
I kind of agree with the two wise men who have dealt with Pakistan in this. Let us not underestimate Pakistan just because they've had a setback on the Jadhav case. Because they are playing a game which is also quite difficult for us. Let's not forget that apart from befriending US, which they'd like to get back in their good books for various reasons, not just for money, there's Afghanistan that needs to be sorted out, and that is moving in the direction that is quite positive towards Pakistan. So they will have control in some senses in a couple of months or years of Afghanistan, which is one of our major worries which we've been expressing.
And there's also the uncertain situation in Kashmir.
And let's not forget Iran. I'm coming to Kashmir. Iran is another area that we have now, because we are not buying oil from them, our relations are delicately poised and imbalanced. Pakistan is trying to make them. So they have a lot of cards in their hands that we need to be cautious about. And let's not forget Kashmir, because there is the real crux of the matter. If, for instance, we are moving ahead with a lot of plans. The Modi government has a lot of plans about Article 370, Article 35A, also holding the elections. We need to test whatever they're doing on that front. For us, that is the litmus test to move forward in terms of our relations, not to just be held hostage by Kashmir on that front, but clearly a lot of verification of that before we begin to trust Pakistan fully on this.
Okay. Thank you all, gentlemen, for joining me. At least we've got a less noisy debate on India-Pakistan, which is all too rare on Indian channels. But here at least we want to bring news without the noise. That's our one-line catch line. So thank you all very much for joining me on the news.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.